What do you do when you reach the top of your field and realize you're miserable? Most people push through, smile for the cameras, keep going. She walked away at 16 years old. And then 2 years later, she came back. Won the world championship. Won Olympic gold. And did it all completely on her own terms. Today we are talking about one of the most fascinating young women in sports right now, her mindset, her decisions, and what her story can teach us about knowing yourself before the world decides who you are. This is episode 2. And we are talking about Alysa Liu. Alysa Liu is a 20-year-old American figure skater from Oakland, California. At 13, she became the youngest U.S. national champion in history. At 16, she competed at the Beijing Olympics. Also at 16, she retired, completely, said she hated skating and walked away. At 18, she came back. At 19, she won the World Championship. At 20, she won Olympic gold at the 2026 Milano Cortina Games. That's not a career arc, that's a masterclass in self-awareness. Here's what her story actually teaches us. Lesson 1: listen to yourself even when the world is applauding. This is the one that hits different. Alysa Liu was 16 years old. She had just competed at the Olympics. The whole world was watching. She was one of the most decorated young figure skaters in American history. And she was miserable. She said it herself, "I hated skating. Like I low-key really hated it and I wanted nothing to do with it." She had been skating since she was 5, homeschooled her whole life so she could train. Living alone, away from family, away from friends, all for the sport. She said, "I'm a very social person. I crave human connection. And I was living by myself for years, no family, no friends around, all for the sake of training." She was 16, and she'd already spent over a decade sacrificing a normal life for a dream that no longer felt like hers. Now here's the part I want you to really sit with. She didn't quit because she failed. She quit because she was succeeding and still felt empty. That is one of the hardest things to admit, because when you're winning, the world tells you to keep going. You're so talented, don't stop now, think of how far you've come. But Alysa Liu listened to something louder than the applause. She listened to herself. The takeaway: success without fulfillment is just a well-decorated cage. The bravest thing you can sometimes do is stop, not because you couldn't keep going, but because you know you shouldn't. Your instincts about your own life are valid even when your results look perfect from the outside. Lesson 2: rest is not retreat, it's research. When Alysa walked away from skating, she didn't sit in a dark room spiraling. She said she tried every hobby in existence. She went to UCLA, she studied psychology, she made friends, she traveled. She skied for the first time, and something about that adrenaline, that feeling of flying, reminded her of what she used to love about the ice. She wasn't running away from skating, she was running toward herself. And when she finally found her way back, it wasn't out of guilt or pressure or fear of being forgotten. It was because she genuinely missed it, on her own terms, with fresh eyes. We live in a culture that treats rest like laziness. Like if you're not grinding 24/7, you're falling behind. But Alysa's 2 years away from skating didn't cost her her career, they funded it. The takeaway: stepping back is not the same as giving up. Sometimes you need to leave a thing to truly understand what it means to you. A break taken with intention is not wasted time, it is the most productive research you can do on yourself. Lightbulb lesson 3: come back on your own terms or don't come back at all. When Alysa decided she wanted to return to skating, she sat down with her coach. And before she agreed to anything, she made her conditions clear. She wanted creative control. Her music, her costumes, her choreography, her vision on the ice, not the labels, not the coaches, not the federations. Hers. Her coach, who had initially tried to talk her out of the comeback, eventually said yes. And that creative freedom became the engine of everything that followed. She also set a boundary that hit close to home. She told her father, who had been deeply involved in her skating from the beginning, to step back. Not out of anger, but because she needed this chapter to belong to her completely. That takes clarity, that takes courage, to look at the people who built you and say, "I love you and I need to do this part myself." And the result: she skated like someone who had nothing to prove and everything to express. Fans said they had never seen an Olympic skater look like they were genuinely having fun. That joy, that was the product of her conditions being met. The takeaway: when you return to something, a career, a relationship, a creative project, don't return to the same terms that burned you out before. Re-entry is a negotiation. Know what you need to thrive, state it clearly, and don't apologize for it. Lightbulb Lesson 4. Reframe your weaknesses as your superpowers. Here's one of my favorite things about Alysa Liu. She has ADHD. And in most conversations, ADHD in a high-performance athlete sounds like a liability. The inability to focus, the unpredictability, the chaos. Alysa sees it completely differently. During one competition, she stumbled on a jump landing and had to improvise mid-program in front of the entire world. And when asked about it after, she lit up. She said, "I have ADHD and I love situations I'm not expecting. It gives me a dopamine rush. With little mistakes, I love working through it, I have to think." She didn't experience the mistake as a crisis. She experienced it as a puzzle, something to solve in real time. And her brain, the very brain she was probably told was too much growing up, was exactly what she needed in that moment. She took what the world told her was a flaw and turned it into the most electric thing about her on the ice. The takeaway: the traits you've been told are too much, too intense, too unpredictable. Look closer. Under the right conditions, the thing that makes you difficult is often the thing that makes you extraordinary. Stop trying to fix the parts of yourself that were built for a different kind of arena. Lightbulb Lesson 5. You don't need external validation to trust your own decisions. After winning Olympic gold in Milan, someone asked Alysa if the medal validated her decision to come back. She said something I haven't been able to stop thinking about. She said, "I didn't need this to validate my decisions. I just made those decisions because I knew in the moment I had to, no matter what the outcome was." Read that again. She didn't come back to prove something. She didn't need the gold to feel like the choice was right. She trusted her gut before she had any evidence it would work out. That is a level of self-trust most of us spend our entire lives trying to build. And here's the kicker: when she stepped onto Olympic ice for her free skate, she said, "I don't really feel pressure. I was peak happiness out there on the ice. Nothing could bring me higher than that." Not nerves, not fear, peak happiness. Because when you're doing something that is genuinely aligned with who you are, on your own terms, with your own vision, the pressure has nowhere to land. The takeaway: stop waiting for results to tell you your decisions were right. The validation you are looking for is already inside the decision you made. Trust the version of yourself that chose, especially when she chose hard. Alysa Liu is 20 years old. She has already retired once, come back, won the world, won the Olympics, and is currently studying psychology at UCLA because she wants to understand people. She is not who anyone expected her to be, and that is entirely the point. She built a career not by being the most disciplined or the most obedient, but by being the most herself. By resting when she needed to rest. By returning when she was ready. By setting terms before she stepped back into the arena. By turning her so-called disorder into her greatest competitive edge. And by proving that you don't need to suffer to be great. If this episode gave you something, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe if you're new. Every episode we go exactly this deep. Drop in the comments, who do you want episode 3 to be about? I'll see you next time.